Hi, welcome back to System Foundations. We are continuing our section for the install and configuration of TaskFreak. So let's go ahead and get started with that. For those of you who missed the first part, TaskFreak is a to-do list. It's kind of a to-do list manager inside of your Linux system. It's free, open source, and we're using an old Ubuntu version to install that. So let's go ahead and we're going to continue on. If you didn't get it installed, please watch the first video, actually the first several videos, which will walk you through how to get TaskFreak installed and get that all up and running. And then we're going to go through and configure TaskFreak so that all the features work inside the calendar and the projects and things like that. So moving on. We have logged into our TaskFreak system. That's CYB Web 02. If you look over, we've got the two systems running. We got CYB DNS01 and CYB Web 02 running. We'll go ahead and go back over here to CYB Web 02, and we're going to install some stuff. So let's go through and install. Let's see where we're at here. Move that over. Okay, let's go ahead and install a whole bunch of PHP utilities. And I'm going to put this in the description so that you can go through and install all of those yourself. Now, it might take a second, so okay, we got those installed. And now let's go ahead and open up TaskFreak and look at the system to see what we're getting here. So I'm opening up a browser. And I'm going to throw that over in the corner here so we can all see it. Okay, now the address we're going to is the 192.168.56.52. We are going to fix DNS so that that works in the future. So we've got that 192.168.56.52. Press enter. We can see we have this directory here. Of course, we want taskfreak.lab.lan to automatically resolve to this. Let's click on TaskFreak, and we have a couple of tests in there. And we can delete those if we want to. We should be able to delete those. And the problem that we had is we could not use the calendar, and you saw that in the last video. So the way we're going to fix that, and so this is TaskFreak, this is what we've got. Let's go back over to our terminal, and let's fix that problem with calendar. Now, if you remember, I mentioned when we were going through the README file that they did it really sloppily. So they did a very sloppy change, and I'll go ahead and find my mouse. There you go. LL, let's go into TaskFreak, and I'll show you what we did. I'll go to install, and install, we'll cat the README. Let's see, it's the install MySQL. Install MySQL. If you go through here, which they wrote the software and they made this great software work. So I'm not putting them down that they you know, oh, this is a horrible thing. It's just there is a much better way of doing this that, hey, they got the job done for the most part without it, right? So there's a much better way of doing this. And so let's go ahead and do that. Instead of changing everything to read write and then going through and changing a couple of directories to read and executable, we're going to go ahead and find the directories that we need. And the way we do that is we use a find statement. So this find statement here will go through and find all of the directories. In fact, let's do that from inception. Go back here. We are in TaskFreak. Let's go back one more. We're now in var www.html. So at this point, let's do a find /type D. And that means we're looking from our current point. That's finding from where we're at right now, type directory. Press enter. And it finds all of the directories. Now, the only directory that people should not have access to is the install directory. So once we found those directories, we can tell find to execute some type of application against the results. So we're finding from our current directory, type directory, and then for every one of these issues found, just like a for loop, we're going to execute chmod a plus x. Now that's kind of weird. Open and close curly braces, / single colon. Now that syntax is a little weird. Really what it is that but we have to backslash escape the single colon at the end for the find statement. So we have find dot slash type D exec chmod, which is changing the permissions, give everyone executable for the results, which the results are only directories, not files there, and then close that. Press enter. Now everything has permissions, and we want to remove permissions on the install. So let's go into a chmod, and we can do a 000, well, whatever you want to do on that. If you want to completely eliminate permissions, 3 zeros, and then do TaskFreak install, and that will eliminate permissions to get into that folder altogether. So now there is no way of getting into that folder. If you want to leave permissions to get into the folder, then we can change it to like 664, but at the same time, you still can't get into the folder. So I'm going to leave it just like that. Now, if we go back over to our web browser, if you remember from last time, the first video, actually it's the fourth video, but the first video on actually getting this up and running, and we go over and create, let's refresh this, or resend, there we go. All right, we're going to hit this little create button there, create, and now we have priorities, we have context, whatever we're doing, like a note, the calendar works there, so we can do a calendar on there. Project, we can say it's a new project, and we can say, you know, I don't know, what would say, system foundations, like that. And this will be daily routine, something of that sort. And this is work on system foundations, like that. The status over there, you can tell it how far along it is of being complete and save. So now we've got our system foundations there. You can see there's a note, it's priority 3, and we're almost done with that. So it's a really nice little system. Go ahead and use it for your own recording, whatever you want to record in there. We will look at systems like this a little bit later on with security aspects, so we can look at the security of it. But that gets you fully up and running with TaskFreak. So there are only really 2 things that we had to do. We did install some other PHP utilities. So those are just to smooth things over. And then we ran the, let me bring back that window. We ran the find statement to go through and fix permissions on the directories. So when we did that, those 2 things now have enabled TaskFreak to work entirely. Hope that this has helped. Hope that you enjoy TaskFreak and that you have a great time with it. The next video, we're going to change DNS to point to taskfreak.lab.lan.